Patreon members, all the subscribers, all the new viewers. I want to thank you guys for your support and contributions made to the platform. It really means a lot to me. If you guys can do me a favor, please hit the like button, share this video, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below, and check out the links in the description box below. If you want to join our Facebook page, hit the link in the description box below, answer the questions. And if you want to join the Patreon page, hit the link in the description box below. Rent-free, RFG. For those that have been around for a while, you know what that means. All right. Screen, record, news. All right. Hopefully you're watching this on a mobile device and you're on portrait mode. All right, let's get into it. So I don't really like talking politics at all. I don't really get into debates or arguments with people about what's going on in politics. I think it's a waste of time. It's a puppet show, and the puppet master has everybody buzzing, okay? When there are families who not only run the country, they run the world. You know, Congress runs America, not the president. You know, they're pretty much the spokesperson in the front to do their bidding for them. But one man, one president doesn't run the country, the nation. We all know this, all right? Your vote doesn't get the president in office. It's the Electoral College. You know, we know this already. So I don't argue with people about what Democrats or the Republicans are doing. I feel like they're two different feathers on the same bird, okay? But since they had the presidential debate the other night, I like a good debate when I hear it. And I'm not going to get into every intricate detail of what they said and break down stats or anything like that. I just want to tell you what I saw. And what I saw was a massacre, all right? Biden, it seemed like every time they gave him the floor to speak, he just couldn't get his word out fully. Would stumble over his words every now and again, lose his train of thought. His speech was slurred. And it looked like a person who shouldn't have been up there that long in the public eye. The Democrats have done what they could over the last several years to try to limit his time in the public eye, right? And here and now was like, I mean, there's no way of getting around this, all right? That presidential debate was, like over an hour and a half. They had like, 2 commercial breaks in between. So maybe an hour and 15 minutes, I would say, in total, their screen time. And the camera pretty much is on both of them the entire time, their reaction. And it was horrible watching it. Whenever Trump would give a rebuttal, the look on his face, he looked like, you know, he didn't know what he was talking about, like a deer in headlights, frozen, stunned. And a lot of people are saying that, hey, man, we can't have somebody running the country like this for the next 4 years. And Troy Terrain, he brought up a good point. He was like, who's been running the country the last 4 years? You know, if you say he can't, in his condition, he can't run another 4 years, he's had this condition the whole time. So in the last 4 years, who's been running the country, right? And we know it's Congress. But some of the things that they pointed out that I thought was interesting, Biden claimed under his presidency, he didn't have any soldiers lose their lives, and that's a lie, right? You can go on the internet right now. There's a website. I don't have it in front of me because I'm doing the screen record on this phone. I would have to pretty much go to the other tabs on the internet to find out. But you can Google. I looked up the stats earlier this morning, and they have stats all the way back going from the year 1980 up until 2020, up until this year. So I like to start at 2023, right, as the recent statistics of things that are going on with troops around the world, how many lives have been lost. And it's hundreds of lives that are lost every single year. Now, to be fair, all those lives isn't due to a terrorist attack or a homicide. So there was 0 terrorist attacks When I looked at the years, there have been zero terrorist attacks for years, right? But they did say that by way of a homicide, these were the soldiers that lost their lives. So it averages out to like 20 or 30 homicides every single year. Some of the other deaths by way of troops are suicide, injuries, old age. You know, they have everything. The terrorist attacks, it said zero, but then there was homicides. So what do they mean by homicides? All right, is it military personnel on military personnel, or maybe it was just one. Excuse me. Maybe it was it was like they were stationed over in the Middle East, and then did a military personnel, did one person get hit? I don't know what they mean by homicide. It didn't really explain. But terrorist attacks, it said zero, but homicides was like average of 20, 30 every single year. But there's hundreds of military personnel who die every single year, right? So, and then in recent news this year, there were 3 soldiers who lost their lives in a drone attack on January 28th. As I was looking up the stats, like I saw that, and it was a drone attack. 3 U.S. troops were unalived in the country of Jordan, more than 30 injured. All right, and it's saying that it was indeed an attack marking the first time U.S. troops have been unalived by enemy fire in the Middle East since the beginning of the Gaza war. Okay, so that was a lie. Under his presidency, troops did lose their lives. So I don't even know why he even made that statement, but it is what it is. One thing Trump mentioned was a 10% tariff that he implemented to stop countries like China from ripping them off, which is very, very true, because the things that China have been able to get away with over the years have been insane. I used to live in China, okay? When I was living there, I was told that Western countries, especially in America, who have businesses in China, they cannot take their money out of China like that. Like China won't let them. And I'm like, are you serious? So I'm like, that's weird, right? And a lot of, there have been different, like TikTok, for example. They went to court, and I can't really give all the intricate details of that, but they went to court and they were like, hey, look, do this or you're going to get banned. It's a security breach, a security issue, and people are kind of outraged behind it. But I'm like, if you go to China, everything from the West is banned and blocked in America. I mean, in China, excuse me. Instagram, TikTok. Well, no, I don't know TikTok, but I know Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. It's banned in China. The only website that's not banned in China that I saw was Yahoo. So you can use Yahoo email, right? You can use Yahoo's search engine in China, but you can't use Google. You can't use anything else. The only thing you have access to is just all Chinese websites. You don't even have access to your email address. You don't have access to Gmail in China. So a lot of people, sometimes when I would fill out paperwork and I would leave a Yahoo email, sometimes they were like, oh, you still have a Yahoo? I'm like, yeah, right? Because having a Yahoo email account saved me in China. Right? If I didn't have that Yahoo email account, I wouldn't have been able to respond to anybody, anything, right? But that's neither here nor there. I thought that was interesting when I was there. I'm like, that's unfair, And then when you go to China, like housing is very, very expensive. You're talking about these apartments. $750 square feet for $1 million, $1.5 million. If you don't own a home, you can't send your children to school. So you have foreigners that live over there and they can't send their kids to school in China. I mean, there's so many things that I could say about that. You can't really start a business in China without somebody Chinese owning half of the business with you. You have to have Chinese business partners. You can't own land. You can't own anything as a foreigner, as an American over there. But over here, they're allowed to do a lot. And I know there's more behind the trades that is ridiculous that I'm not well versed in. And I'm being honest, I'm not well versed in a lot of things that, were discussed in the presidential debate. I don't have the stats and everything in front of me, but I will tell you, living in China, being an American living in China, it's totally different than a Chinese person living in America, right? What are you allowed to do as an American living in China? For real. So they go on to talk about how, Trump mentioned how millions of people from jail and mental institutions were able to flood the borders and enter into the country, which is true, right? Because there's no background checks on these people that are coming in. Like, who are these people? It was done before, right? Remember Fidel Castro let out all those guys from the prisons over there in Cuba, and they invaded Miami, and that turned into the murder capital of America at the time, Miami. That's when, you had, that was the cocaine cowboy era, which was insane. And not only people were coming in from Cuba, you had a lot of people coming in from different places, the Bahamas, Colombia, you name it. All right. That was starting up these cartels just running rampant in Miami. So to say that these people aren't coming from jails, prisons, mental institutions, that would be, a person saying that would be intellectually dishonest, right? We don't know the backgrounds of these people. They flooded New York, the Midwest, down south. We've seen dozens and dozens of cases of people unaliving other groups of people, American citizens, robbing American citizens. Literally, just yesterday, there was an incident in, I think it's Irvine, Texas. It's pronounced two different ways. You can pronounce it Irving, Texas, or Irvine, Texas. It was an illegal immigrant who came over here and unalived 2 Chick-fil-A workers. You can look that up. That I read it today, but I think it happened yesterday, right? And over here in my area, there are two girls that were found in a ditch, dead, in my area, and I'm like, they're trying to investigate it, not at once, like in the same month, in the month of June, on 2 different weeks, we had 2 women unalived, and I suspect that it might be some illegal immigrants, because you've seen this nonstop of illegal immigrants that were allowed to come over here, unaliving women, robbing women, unaliving men, robbing men, doing whatever it is that they want to do, just causing a ruckus, right? Getting a line of credit, getting money, getting these credit cards, living in these hotels. It's insane what they're giving to people that are not from here. And it's like that could be going towards actual American citizens. You have people not only from South America coming over here, you got people coming from China, people coming from Canada, a lot of Canadians that moved down here. It is ridiculous. So this mass deportation, I'm all for it. I've been for it, right? I've been for it since the Trump administration, when he was elected into the presidency in 2016, right? I'm not for, I know there's not a homogenous America's not a homogenous society, but you have to have border control. All right. Mismanagement of spending was brought up. Yes, I mean, like Biden is giving billions upon billions of dollars to different countries, especially Ukraine and other countries I won't mention, right? Afghanistan, you name it, right? Then, by printing out so much money to give to different countries, that raises the price here in America, inflation. And inflation, let me tell you, inflation is the inevitable, right? So I didn't, when Trump said, under my presidency, there was zero inflation. No, like inflation is the inevitable. Things aren't going to stay the same price for decades. It's going to happen regardless, right? But yes, at the rate it's going, it's not at a steady rate. Like it's you're putting that many bills, right? Putting out that much money to give to other countries. Yeah, things are going to go up. All right. So the topic of black families, I thought that was laughable. And I am a black man speaking on this, right? So 80% of the households in America in the quote unquote black community are single mothers, right? These households the majority are single mothers, and that's by choice. That's by their choice. So let's put it on there, because the bulk of children being born, in the black community are out of wedlock and only made, or the bulk of the kids that are made are only by 16% of the men. A very, very small percentage of the men. So, but that's another topic of discussion. So they said black families. I thought it was hilarious. But anyways, then Biden gave his 2 cents. He was talking about how much he helped the black community, and Trump, when it came to Trump, he said, hey, that's a lie, right? How can you help them when you flooded black areas, I'll just say black areas, with immigrants? You got these schools out here, these primary schools, elementary, middle school, high schools, that can't even practice, whatever it might be, a volleyball team, a basketball team, can't even practice in their own gym because they've they allowed the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, to they use these gyms to house them there. And it was like, why are you doing this to us? There's an Hispanic community over here. Do it in their areas. Why us, right? So that's when you seen a lot of protests, not hardcore protests. It was, it was, nobody, burning down anything or getting violent, but it was a respectable protest, voicing their concerns of, hey, we don't want these people here. They don't even like us, right? So if they are Hispanic, put them in Hispanic areas where, amongst people that look like them. And I'm not against that, right? Because, and I'll just leave it at that. But he was saying, like, how are you helping them when you're doing stuff like this to their schools, right? Jobs that could be for them, you're giving it to illegal immigrants, and they're doing it at a lower wage. So the value of that position isn't what it used to be, right? And then on top of that, you spent over a decade referring to black people as super predators. And when he said that, he looked like a deer in headlights. Like, what is he talking about? But like, he couldn't give a rebuttal towards that, even though he made that face, because we all know it's true, right? Biden was a major part of that 94 crime bill, all right, referring to black people as super predators. Biden said he gave $15 billion to HBCUs. We don't care about that. HBCUs, there's not a university in America that is just for one race of people. All right. So it's just called a historically black college. All right. Historically black colleges, they allow anybody and everybody to go to these colleges, but the scholarships that they give to these historically black colleges, they're not foundational black Americans that they give these scholarships to. They give them to Africans and Caribbeans and Hispanics and Asians. They give it to everybody but foundational black Americans. They'll give it to Africans and Caribbeans who don't even like foundational black Americans and say, hey, well, we gave it to these people over here. And you look at their last names, you can clearly see that they're not black Americans. You don't see Washingtons or Smiths, right? You don't see Williams. You see like Mduke's and stuff like that as the last names. And they're clearly not from here. When they would ask Trump questions, right, he would kind of breeze past. And I would say this is a negative thing about Trump. When they would ask him questions to respond to, he would like disregard what it is that they asked so that he could respond to what Joe Biden said to you know, in the previous question that they asked Biden. And then I'm like, okay, well, Mr. President, okay, you still have 67 seconds left. What do you have to say about this topic right here, right? And he would still use that time to rebuttal on what Biden said in the previous question. And they would ask him like, Mr. Trump, former President Trump, please answer the question, right? So that was his way to skate out of answering certain questions. I noticed that, right? One thing that Biden said that I didn't like was, you know, they were talking about, I believe they were talking about, I got to watch it again because I breezed through it. I think they were talking about like relations with other countries and stuff like that. And Biden said something that he shouldn't have said. He said it twice too, if you caught him. He said like, hey, look, you know, because Trump kept saying like, hey, everybody's laughing at us, right? We're a joke to everybody because you've allowed this, that, and the third. You've opened our borders. You've caused a major security breach with what you've been doing. This, that, and the third. Everybody's laughing at us. And Joe was saying like, hey, you know, no, they're not laughing at us. I have a great relationship with this country, this person, this country, this, that, and the third. We have the best military in the world or whatever. They know not to screw around with us. Russia knows not to screw around with us. China knows not to screw around with us. North Korea knows not to screw around with us. You shouldn't have said that, right? You shouldn't have said that. That's not what you say. And part of people's vote is like, you know, how, all right, China didn't like the trade sanctions that, you know, President Trump implemented on them, because it's like, hey, I'm all about being fair. And this isn't fair what you're doing, so I'm going to do this. I'm all for that. I'm 100% for that. And if they're upset about it, then it is what it is. Now, it's sad because they started attacking the American embassy. I think they bombed it over there in a city in China, or they attacked it. I remember that because of the tariffs. But it is what it is. You know, I'm all for, if they get upset, whatever. But I'm all for at least trying to make things fair, right? Because I'm somebody who traveled abroad, lived abroad, and man, the things that they allow people to do over in America is just ridiculous compared to what you're not allowed to do, you know, over in these other countries, and you're just forever a foreigner in everybody's eyes. You know, even when some of these countries are calling for people to migrate over to these countries so that they could help build their population, but that's neither here nor there, right? I digress. But when he said, "Hey, man, like Putin, North Korea, China, they know not to screw around with us." I didn't like that. He said that twice, right? And you could tell that's somebody who's just incoherent. You don't say that. Even if you feel that, if you feel that way, that's fine. But don't say that in the public eye during a presidential debate, right? Uh, Trump said he took a cognitive test and he's like, I aced it. I don't know what the test results were, but he said he took it and he aced it. But he's like, Joe Biden hasn't taken one, and I believe that, right? The man's incoherent. And at one point in time, Trump said, like, hey, let's not act like children. And he was sort of being the mature one, and that I think that was towards the end of the debate. I think they were talking about golfing. He was saying like, yeah, I said I would go golfing with him but you got to carry your own bag and this, that, and the third. It was just going back and forth. He wanted a response, and Trump was like, hey, look, let's not act like children. But I think this presidential debate was a lot more mature than the debate 4 years ago, because that was pure comedy 4 years ago. So, but the thing is, I think Joe Biden was up there an hour too long than what he should have been in the public eye, in his mental state, right? If the Electoral College does vote him back in, Joe Biden as, the next president, then I think like, I don't know. I don't know, what his state of mind is, and if it gets worse, then they'll probably be banking for Kamala Harris to take over that presidential spot, which I don't like her or her policies either. She's just as worse as Joe Biden, in my opinion. President Trump, or former President Trump, was talking about a mass deportation, and I'm all for that, right? I am all for that. Crime has gone up since people had just been allowed to come over, and especially I'm down here in the South. Man, the Southern hospitality is not here like it once was anymore. And I'm not saying these are illegal immigrants that have came over recently. I mean, this has just been that way for years now. Customer service sucks, right? Customer service is just down the drain wherever you go. You don't have that Southern hospitality, that warmth that you once had at one point in time. It's just a lot of people on the edge, and it's like, hey, I've had to go off on a few people at different establishments out here. I'm like, look here, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm actually from this area, right? I'm born and raised here, and I've never met people with such, I've never, once in a while you meet people that are rude or whatever, or kind of snarky, but your attitude, right? Or the attitude that I've been seeing in this area for quite some time, and it's really people who aren't from here. I've never seen this much disrespect. People who are just, cynical and condescending and rude and disrespectful as people who aren't from here, that they're showing people to the local, showing to the local area. That I've never seen this. You know what I'm saying? So I'll admit I've done stuff like that. I've had to check people. I'm like, look, I hear an accent. You're not from here. You don't speak to people like that around here. If you speak to people like that around here, you need to go back home, right? Because I'm not disrespecting you. Don't disrespect me. And if you feel like you have to keep on continue to talking to me like this, then you need to get somebody else to come over here, and I need to speak with your manager. I had to do that multiple times around here, right? So that has nothing to do with illegal immigrants. But when people migrate over here, then, their offspring, they go to school, and then they have kids, and then they get older, they work a job, and it's like, things changed in the area. And what was once like, like I said, that Southern hospitality, warmth, it goes away, right? But I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, what did you think about the presidential debate? I thought it was a circus. Um, but I think the topics that made me laugh out loud was the black vote. Biden said that they support him more than ever. That's a joke. The topic of black families, that's a joke. But that's just personally how I feel, right? Border security, just mismanagement of our nation's spending. It's insane, right? Anyways, I'm over and I'm out. You guys take care. Peace.